Welcome, everyone. We are back at it with another short episode, some quick hits, helping you figure out how to manage your life more effectively, how to elevate your level of fulfillment, how to find peace and joy. And today, specifically, we're going to be talking about managing stress and how to recognize the stress that we are experiencing inside of our life, understand a little bit more about where that stress comes from and why it can happen, when it's good, when it happens, and when maybe we're having more of that negative stress that we want to start to manage, and talk through some of the actual tips and tricks that you can use to pull from your own little stress toolkit when things are really you're finding yourself in a stressful situation or wanting to get ahead of the stress that you're experiencing. So I'm super excited that today we have Tresa Lieutenant with us. Tresa is one of my dearest friends and one of the most amazing women that I know. I'm so grateful that we're going to be able to spend some time with Tresa today talking about stress. So, Tresa, I'd love for you to say hello to our audience.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Tresa Lieutenant, and I'm a certified financial planner since, believe it or not, 1990. So I've been working with clients and helping them achieve their financial goals for a very long time. And it's incredibly passionate work for me. So to talk about stress and how to relieve it, like what is it? What can we do about it? This is a very exciting topic for me, one that I love to speak to with my clients. So thanks, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I've got three core questions that I think are super important for us to answer as we're starting to understand a little bit more about stress. So those questions that we're going to be answering today: why are we stressed, Tresa? First and foremost, where is it coming from? What's going on? Why is everybody experiencing it? What do we need to notice in order to become aware of our own stress patterns and how that's impacting both our mind and our body? And then finally, what are some of the things that we can do to start managing our stress more effectively? So I'd love to open up and have you dive into, some of what you've experienced working with clients and the thought work that you do yourself. I mean, you are a coach and you are somebody who does a great job of managing your mind, and you help others to see those things that maybe are getting in their way. So tell us a little bit about why you think we're so stressed right now.
Well, I think we're stressed because number one, we aren't really taught about what stress is, whether it's good stress or bad stress. But mostly I think it's because we have found ourselves with the information revolution, right? And computers and this amazing connectivity that we have, that we just have so much input, don't we? And we have so much more opportunity. Like everything is possible for us now. And that's the messages that we're hearing from our culture. You can have it all. You can do it all. And in fact, the message is you should be doing it all.
Yeah.
And so we actually are putting so much stress on ourselves to try to become something that we're not. And that's why, you and I, Lindsay, we really focus in on the mind piece of it, the mindset piece of it, and also learning about who am I and what do I really want in my life. These are questions that a lot of women and men are beginning to open up to, like, I figure this out about myself. Who am I? Where am I going? What really makes me happy? So in the context of stress, then that's how we can like approach it. Why are we under stress? And a lot of it's about the world outside, and some of it's about who we are.
You said a word that I think is so powerful, should, right? Should and shouldn't, and the way that our brain interprets that. And if we are comparing ourselves potentially to the outside world and we're judging ourselves in the space that we are compared to somebody else, and I should be here, or I shouldn't be doing this, or, we always say that you stop shitting all over yourself, right?
Yeah.
Should only leads to shame and guilt and, that self-induced negative stress. Now, we also know that there's good stress and bad stress. You want to talk a little bit about the difference between the two so that people can start to, I think that people know that like working out is good stress. What are
Right.
some of the other good stresses that we should be putting ourselves in proactively in order to build some more resilience
Right.
in life?
Well, let's say, for instance, that you are someone who has some grasp on who you are, what makes you happy, where you're going. And there's something in your future that you would really like to experience. So you create, and we do this with our clients all the time, you create a plan, an action plan to actually pursue that thing in your future that you would like to experience. Let's just say it's travel to Africa. You know, many people are really enjoying that type of international adventure travel. Well, there's things to do. And perhaps you have a deadline, right? Okay, I want to do this by the summer and I want to take my family with me. That's good stress. Putting all the pieces together, figuring out the money issues, and all of the differences between being in your life here and going to a foreign country. That to me is really good stress.
Yeah.
Another example of good stress is you want to become more have more productivity at work. And so you realize that there are new skills that you need to develop in order to be more productive or reach a goal, such as being having a new job or getting promoted. That's good stress because it's positive, it's forward thinking, it's something you choose. Whereas bad stress is really about being unconscious about what's really happening for you, avoiding it, buffering it. And I know you have a lot to say about that kind of stress, bad
Yeah.
stress that actually takes a toll on our health.
Yeah, when we're stuck in that survival mode because we're allowing, I like to think about it as like, are you letting things, do you believe that things are happening to you, or do you think that things are happening for you?
Yes.
And so if we aren't processing some of those inputs and we're making them mean something about ourselves, and again, we're comparing and judging, and ultimately we aren't feeling safe, right? We're going to do things that are counterintuitive that keep us
Mhm.
stuck in the same loop. So
Mhm.
things like buffering, covering up your negative emotions
Mhm.
in order to feel better
Mhm.
instead of processing through your negative emotions and really understanding where is that coming from. It's not coming from the things that are happening around me. It's coming from what I'm making those things mean.
Yes.
And so, it's little things. It doesn't have to be massive, right? I think about as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get pulled into, let's say, the social media space, right?
Yeah.
Where, just on a daily basis, as a regular human, you're spending a lot of time on social media with these negative inputs.
Yes.
I notice additional negative inputs as an entrepreneur, which happens just in everyday life too, but it's the comparison game of, oh, I'm out there and I see what other people are doing and I should be there too, right? I should be there too. Now I'm putting that negative stress on myself, not because
Yeah.
it's actually true. In fact,
Yes.
I truly believe that my journey is my own journey, but
Yes.
my primitive brain
Mm.
shows
Yes.
up every once in a while and
Yeah.
does some really human stuff where
Yeah.
it starts to compare. And then as a result, I no longer feel safe. So I
Mhm.
want to talk a little bit before we jump into, how do we become aware that some of this is happening for us and become like that observer. Can we talk a little bit more about the, sympathetic versus parasympathetic, some of this like actual physiological stuff and just the primitive brain and how some of that kind of works? You want to just give me any of your thoughts on that particular?
Well, when I'm thinking about myself and my own journey around managing stress, because as one gets older, I've noticed that handling my stress is more challenging. So, what I've learned about myself is when my heart starts beating fast, when
Mm,
my breathing becomes shallow, that is an opportunity for me to say, is there something that I'm afraid of? And is that fear real or not? Because
mm,
our fear response, which of course is trying to keep us safe, right? That's part of our primitive brain, and we're always going to have it. And we have to realize that and learn to work with it, right? So if there is a true fear, that I need to like pay attention to, that's great. And I'm really grateful for that. But a lot
Yeah.
of the things that we're afraid of that cause that nervous system change and that uncomfortable feeling that really can stop us or at least slow us down and confuse
Mhm.
us. You were talking about the negative feedback loop that we can get into. So that's one of the things that I've learned how to do is ask myself, I'm starting to feel these physical symptoms, these physical changes. What
Mm.
am I afraid of? And you know what it is a lot of the time, Lindsay? It's because I'm afraid of the should. I'm afraid I'm not going to do it right. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose something or
Yeah.
somebody. Those are just real human things that we all have that are happening for us, and raising our awareness about them and learning how to deal with that and what
Yeah.
our particular strategy is. I think that's what we're working toward.
It's so important to start to understand your own process, right? And
Yes.
thinking about things like traumas and
Yeah.
like little T's versus big T's, right? Little T traumas being things that could be micro
Mm.
aggressions or just something that other people might look and say, hey, that's not a big deal, but we've
Right.
internalized it in a certain way versus big T traumas, which most people are pretty aware of and familiar with, things like death
Right.
or complete financial ruin or some
Or
of the
abuse.
bigger, or abuse. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And so what's so interesting is that both of those types of traumas, little t or big T, they get stored inside of your body.
Yeah.
And that kind of it, if you think about it this way, I think this is one of the easiest ways that this has been put to me previously. And this is really true for women.
Mm.
We store a lot of stress in our hips, a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, a lot of pent up energy. And
Mm.
if you think about it, right, when you are stressed, you're poising yourself, like you are tensing your body
Go.
to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like fight. And so you're tightening things like your psoas muscles and your glutes.
Mhm.
And if you are chronically in a state of stress, you are constantly tightening those muscles. And that's why our hips are so tight and why people have such horrible low back problems. And so this is how trauma gets stored in the body. It's just one
Yeah.
example. But you
Yes.
think about this, right? And you think about the way that the brain works. And you think about things like acting from your primitive brain, your amygdala, which is wired to figure out if this is going to be dangerous.
Mhm.
And if you don't learn how to notice this stuff
Mhm.
and start to recognize what's going on for you, both in your body and your own mind, you're always going to get stuck in that place of acting from fear.
Mhm.
And so this takes me immediately into our next part of this, which is how can we become aware of when this is happening for us? How do we create that space in both our mind and our body? What are some of the things that we need to start doing?
Be noticing, what is my body telling me? What is it alerting me to? And yes, I think again, that's just an ultimate gift that we can give ourselves in terms of our own desire and responsibility for self-care. This is a self-care activity. What's
Yeah.
going on with me? What do I need to learn?
The first thing that I try to do is like create some space,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
slow
Yes.
things down,
The whole
right?
idea of pausing, giving ourselves time to think, to feel, to
Yeah.
question. And I do think that that may be the most important thing about becoming aware of our stress is just giving ourselves the gift of time. Just ponder it
And not judge it, right?
and not just.
Once you find that you've created some space, let it be there
Mhm.
without trying to change it. Just
Mhm.
accept that it's there, right? As you said earlier, stress was ultimately designed to keep us safe.
Yes.
So we have to give it some credit here. Like you are here alerting me to the possibility of danger. Now, with my prefrontal cortex, I get to choose whether or not I want to react from that primitive place or from that higher human element.
Right.
But without that space and without that calm, we're ultimately Right? We're feeding our brain so many inputs on a daily
Yes.
basis. We're keeping the noise so loud
So loud.
that we can't cut through that noise and get true signal about what it is that we should be doing to center ourselves. Give us a couple of reasons that you believe that that can be so hard for us, right? To take that moment and do some self-care. What do you think are some of the reasons behind that?
You know, one of the things that I hear from clients a lot, and you know, I have a practice around women, and I coach women to become more of who they are. But you know what they tell me? They don't want to do the wrong thing.
Mm,
We are in a culture of so much judgment. And boy, that's been ramped up recently. I mean, you talk about the noise that we let in. Well, a lot of that noise that is available to us to let in is judgment. And so that whole piece of, I just don't want to do the wrong thing because I don't want my family to judge me, big one. My neighbors, my friends, I don't want to get into the conversation. I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to feel bad about myself. Those are big drivers for people's stress. And
yeah.
that's one of the reasons that we have to empower ourselves to love ourselves enough to say, wait a minute, what's right for me? I deserve to have my life be right for me.
Yeah. I love the question. If I were coming at it from a place of love for myself and others, what would I be doing here?
Wow,
How would
that's
I be showing up? What would I be doing differently than what I'm doing right now? And do I want to choose to continue to show up the way that I am, or do I want to try this other way? Right.
yeah,
So much of this is just experimentation and being
yes,
willing to take chances on yourself
yes,
and recognizing that you have to practice stuff over and over and over again
yeah,
until you get good at it. We're not going to be good at this when we first try it.
right, right,
Even after we've been trying it. I mean, I know that you and I, we do tons of thought work and we'll come together, and I love our conversations because I get to be the purest form of myself with you and so incredibly authentic and vulnerable. And I love showing up to conversations and being like, Tresa, do you know what my brain just told
exactly
me?
what it's saying to
Do you
me.
want to hear what just happened inside of my head? It
Isn't
was
that so true?
ridiculous.
So true.
Yeah.
And what's great about the work that we've done and that we do together is that we look for the thought that is causing us stress. We are, you know, we're like excavators, you know, we want to dig it out because we know that is the source of the stress.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
soon as we understand it and shift it,
Yeah.
then our stress is relieved. And I guess, you know, Lindsay, for the folks that are watching, that's the one thing that I hope they take away is that stress is manageable as
Mhm.
long as you're willing to look inside yourself and ask yourself some questions that can bring up things that maybe you don't want to realize, maybe you don't want to face, but as
Yeah.
soon as you can face them, then you can start feeling, you know what? The other thing my clients tell me, what do they want? They want to feel free,
Yeah.
free to make decisions that give them the value of their life that they know we were born to have a good life, right? We were
Yeah.
born to really feel those positive emotions, but we have to do a little excavating sometimes to clear the path for a sense of freedom in that way.
Something that you just said rings so true for me in a lot of the work that I've been doing recently. It's that decision piece, right? Being
Mhm.
able to make powerful decisions and then
Yes.
have your own back,
Mhm.
making the decision from, again, a place of love for you and what it is that you want to create versus worrying
Yeah.
that you're going to make a decision and then have it be the wrong decision. And the amount of stress that that can cause unnecessarily versus truly having your own back and showing up and being like, you know what, I'm going to make this decision. It may or may not work out the way that I am desiring it to. But you know
Yes.
what? The next thing that's going to happen if it doesn't work out is I'm going to have my own back
Mhm.
and I'm going to be able to get myself to this next decision that will
Yes.
take me in another direction. So,
Yes.
yeah, let's take our audience through a bunch of our tools I
Okay.
like to think of this as, you've got your toolkit with you. You've got all of these different tools that you can pull from at different points in time, depending on your situation, whatever's going on for you. You're not necessarily going to use them all of the time. You're going to go to the ones that you think are best suited for your particular situation in that moment. And so, when I think of some of the tools that are in my toolkit,
Mhm.
I'm doing a lot of nervous system healing right now.
Yes.
And I've
Mhm.
been working on this for a while. This is one of those things that is not a journey that is quick
Yeah.
by any means.
Mhm.
If you have a dysregulated nervous system because of past trauma getting stored inside of the body, or not doing some of that work over time and creating an environment for yourself where you know how to self-regulate and
Mhm.
self-soothe, right? Some of that is just very somatic in terms of the
Yes.
work that we can do. And so I'm doing a lot of nervous system healing these days where things like breath work,
Mhm.
vagus nerve stimulation,
Mhm.
um, doing things like humming. If I'm in it, right, and you talked about earlier, you start to feel your
Mhm.
heart rate increase. You
Mhm.
start to feel the temperature in your body changing. You start to notice, like for me, sometimes stress, can get overlapped with anger or frustration or fear. And so you kind of feel it building inside of you. And so when I find myself in those moments, I take a walk, right? I go outside, I stand barefoot in my lawn, assuming
Ah.
that there's, not tons of snow out there, and I hum and I sway.
Ah, beautiful. I find
It's
myself doing that a
good.
lot, this is incredibly calming, especially like I'm in long meetings a lot of the time and I share the space with other people and they're talking and so I am wanting to be calm and ready for my opportunity or my part. So this is an incredibly calming thing to do with your body.
Yeah, incredibly calming. What are
Mhm.
some of the other tools in your tool chest?
Well, I'm a bit of a addict when it comes to personal development. And so I'm constantly working and learning new tools. And one that I learned last year was positive intelligence. And positive intelligence is a set of strategies that help you interrupt the negative loop that we can get into so easily because of what you explained around how the brain works. And so these strategies are things like just focusing on something very simple, like rubbing your fingers together and just putting your
Mm,
mind totally on that and nothing else. And you can use that same strategy in other parts of your body where you could just close your eyes. You don't have to meditate, although meditation is a major strategy for me because I meditate every morning and it sets my day up. It
mm,
gets my nervous system straightened out right away in the morning. And I'll tell you what happened for me is that I had my cortisol levels tested recently.
mm.
They spiked in the middle of the night. And so I would wake up in the morning with really high cortisol levels. So I needed to have strategies like that. So positive intelligence, I won't go into anymore. People can look it up online. It's an excellent way to smooth out your entire life and learn how to think differently and use your body for that.
How do we remove some of just the toxins from
Oh,
our environment, right? So we talk a lot about mindset and understanding how everything is impacting you. What are you consuming? What are
yeah,
you consuming in terms of your food? What are you consuming in terms of the lotions and the toxins that you're putting on your body? What are you consuming by the inputs that are coming from social media and the news sources? What are you consuming by surrounding yourself with the people that you're surrounding yourself by? All of those inputs, you got
right,
to kind of take an inventory of them.
right.
And then, like you said, you don't have to stop being informed.
No,
But what you want to do is you want to at least provide the same level of positive inputs
yes,
as negative. It should at least be 50-50, right? If
yes,
not more swung towards that positive side of the fence. But if
yeah,
we like at least do 50-50, if you're going to spend, an hour consuming news. You also want to be spending an hour maybe doing meditation or reading or, going for a walk or
Coloring is a
coloring.
really
Yeah.
good strategy
Yeah.
for reducing stress, because
Absolutely.
you are not thinking, you're just feeling the color and the image and the creativity. I love coloring.
So good. So
Mhm.
good. Such a calming exercise. The last one that I want to talk about is gratitude. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on gratitude?
Well, of course, in our culture now, the recommendation is to have a daily gratitude practice. And, I don't know, doing it daily is maybe not as necessary as doing the same sort of inventory on a regular basis. Like, what is it in my life that is really going well that I'm so grateful for? And it can be really little things, like my husband's going through back surgery right now and recovering from that, and it's a hard journey. What am I grateful for? That my spine is healthy, and that I have stretched myself and exercised myself for my entire life. And now, as I'm in my 60s, it's really showing benefits, right? So just those kinds of things that you don't really notice all the time, but man, it can just make you feel so much better about life and yourself when you take an inventory of what is going well for you.
Yeah. Gratitude is just one of those things that, man, it's a huge bang for your buck, right?
Oh, it is.
For those of you that are science geeks out there, like, and you need the data behind it because it really is the most incredible thing, right? It reduces the amount of cortisol inside of your brain. Too much cortisol is actually going to shrink your prefrontal cortex and it's
Mm,
going to enlarge your amygdala. And
mm.
so if you're walking around and you've got this enlarged amygdala, which is your fear center, and you've got a shrunk prefrontal cortex, which is your human thinking portion of your brain, your reactions to the world around you are going to be incredibly skewed. So
Reactionary instead of
totally.
response, instead of responding, knowing what you want. See, that's exactly what you're promoting.
Yeah, that key right there.
Mhm,
Reaction versus response. And
mhm.
so if we can reduce that amount of cortisol and bring our brain back into regulation a little bit, then we are able to move into that prefrontal cortex and make that response versus reaction. Yeah,
Yes,
it's so important. The other thing is it just rewires your brain, right? So
yes.
you're actually actively creating new neural pathways inside of your brain when you're practicing gratitude. You're practicing going to the positive. I remember doing a session once, and this gentleman, it was right kind of the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm.
And I was asking about some of the triggers that people were experiencing. And this guy was like, you know what? I was triggered by the fact that my sewer line in my basement just ruptured and it covered my entire basement with sewage.
Oh,
And he's like, that experience under past circumstances, the way I would have handled this in the past would be to be completely stressed out and, react in a very negative way, which would get me results that I didn't desire. And so about a year ago, I started practicing gratitude on a regular basis and just jotting down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And when this happened, I noticed my brain, the first thing that it thought was, I'm so grateful that we have the ability to get somebody out here within 24 hours to fix this thing. And
wow,
I'm
that's
so
great.
grateful that we have the privilege to be able to afford it.
Mhm,
Right. And
mhm.
so he was like, yeah, it was the moment in time that I recognized that that year's worth of gratitude was paying off. And
Well,
so, yeah,
that story
huge.
is a beautiful testimonial for gratitude, because it's in the little ways that it can really pay
Yeah,
off in your life, which makes your life better in a bigger way.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Tresa. So we're going to wrap this up for today. Leave me with your favorite tool in the toolkit so that everybody knows, like, when I'm stressed, this is what I'm going to first.
It's got to be exercise for me, and that is because it involves the body and the brain, right? So meditation is important, but exercise, I do both every morning. And so that is really how you set yourself up to have a not a stress-free day, but a stress managed day, so that your stress does not my stress doesn't overwhelm me. It isn't that I don't have it. It's that I've set myself up to win, as I like to say, by giving myself a stretched body, a body that feels fit and able, and also a mind through meditation that feels calm. And I'm centered in myself, who I am and where I'm going, what's important to me.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Since I shared earlier the humming and the grounding, that's one of my favorites. I would say that my second favorite are thought downloads. And, really thinking about, so if there's something that I'm stressed about, getting clear about what are the facts of the situation
Yes.
and what's the narrative? What am I adding to whatever is going on around me? And when I'm like capturing that on paper, I'm just writing down every single thought that I'm having, whether it's negative or positive, that doesn't matter, but I get it all out of my head. And that way I can start to examine it, and I can ask myself questions about which one of these thoughts is causing me stress,
Right.
and which one of these thoughts maybe do I want to replace it with, or
Right.
how do I want to be thinking about this differently? It just gives me more option to not just be living inside of my head, but to get it down on paper and be a little bit more objective.
I love that. And it also helps you over time. The more thought downloads you do, the more you begin to understand what's going on with me. Who am I really? What is it that I might want to pay attention to and work on? Maybe I want to shift this particular way I react to things. So, thought downloads. I love that.
So good. Well, Tresa, it was so wonderful spending some time with you, talking about stress, sharing you with the audience. Tresa is going to be a friendly face. You are going to see a lot of her going forward because we're going to do a lot more of these together. She's also going to do some coaching for us. So I hope that you get to spend some one-on-one time with Tresa. We have our retirement readiness roadmap event that's coming up in the month of March. For those of you that happen to watch this after the month of March, we do these on a pretty regular basis, but that's going to be the first opportunity that all of you that are participating get to do some one-on-one with Tresa. So
Fabulous.
thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.